Ladies and gentlemen, it is January 2nd, 2011. It's a new year! This is Day 9 Daily number 231, and I'm back! I was on a little bit of a hiatus for 2 weeks doing Christmas break, where I had to spend time with my family because I love them. But now that we got that out of the way, I am back and ready to only focus on Starcraft 2 and esports for a year. One of my New Year's resolution was to, of course, fix streaming problems and make it a smoother experience. I successfully messed that up on the very first daily. That's right, archive viewers. It's 7:15 right now. Ordinarily, the daily begins at 7:05. But I accidentally crashed my encoder. YEAAH! Because, of course, Day 9 is, unfortunately, Day 9. So I can only do as well as I can do, which is to crash it all the time. But that's fine because we're back and we're ready to roll. In exciting news in 2011, because there's so many exciting projects and good stuff going on, in the very near future, I'm going to be doing a daily about everything that is to come, all the cool, exciting projects, and potentially nifty changes you shall see. However, I know that a lot of you kind of are missing on your nicotine habit of Day 9. So, of course, given the fact that I am an excellent provider of that nicotine in the form of high-level StarCraft analysis, that is what we are doing today, drilling directly into a PvZ between oGsMC and RET. Now, what we're going to really focus on is a pretty short game. You probably hear me say before, the crazy, insane, dramatic games are very fun in terms of entertainment value. However, they're not so educational. The ones that are really educational are like the 10-minute one-sided Hulk smashings, and that's what we're really going to look at today, is how we can Hulk smash other people. Because it's when something goes wrong in your really amazing solid build that you end up with those amazing, amazing games. Amazing games are not the norm, so we definitely want to look at one of those. But before, of course, I want to tell you some exciting stuff. I have glasses. Oh my... Let me tell you something exciting, guys. I have contacts. Oh! Always get it the second time around. And this makes me excited because look how much smaller my eyes get when my glasses go on. Like, whoa! Seriously, they're like micro-freaking-scopic. So now you know that I do, in fact, have eyes. I have whites in my eyes. But the optometrist visit in particular was so good. I actually have a fear of optometrists from when I was a little kid, because they were these scary people who would judge you, right? They'd come in and be like, all right, you know, the lights would be off, there'd be like one lamp on in a corner, and you'd be sitting in that chair that has these like gadgets just like sitting on it, and you'd be like, feel like you're about to have surgery done on you. And he'd say, all right, Sean, your vision seems to have gotten a little worse from last year. Like you did something wrong, right? And I'm like, oh, okay. He's like, Sean, have you been playing video games? And I'm like, I was like too ashamed to just be like, yeah, you know, I was just like shaking my head as this very upset 11-year-old boy. And what's scary about an optometrist is I can't see him, right? I don't have my contacts or my glasses, and he's just this blurry, dark figure judging me. Oh, it's terrifying. It's like when you don't see the monster in the movies. I just filled in horns and big scary teeth on his face, and he's just like looking at a chart going, -7 in both eyes, So when he'd leave the room when I was little, I would turn around and memorize the letters on the wall. So that way when he came back, he's like, can you read this row? And I was like, absolutely, B7J46. He was like, amazing. And my prescription would be like +1 and -9.5. And every time I would try to like put on the glasses, I would like warp my brain in half and fall over. So now that I'm older and more mature, even though I had that little bit of a fear, I overcame it to now have these contact lenses that are oh so good. And I will admit, everything's like huge now. Like things just feel bigger. It's easier to micro with contacts, and I'm not kidding. So of course, without any further ado, let's get started on this daily. This is so great. Now, I'm going to do something I ordinarily don't do. See this little overlay I have covering up that replay time? We're going to look at the wrong overlay, and then we're going to minimize this one just to take a look at the time length. See, this is 13 minutes and 47 seconds. I want to point out something to you that hopefully some of you have noticed at home. In general, first-ish attacks happen around 7 or 8 minutes. A lot of like for Warpgate style attacks, a lot of Big Barrack style attacks, a lot of Roach, or even some Speedling, Baneling plays happen around that 7-8 minute mark, right? So I tend to like games that are like 10 minutes long, or about 13 minutes long. 15 feels a little bit long for me, but in this length of time is generally where an attack happens that really starts to put pressure on, and then that is around the 8-minute mark, this attack really starts to put pressure on. And then maybe over the course of the next 3 to 5 minutes, the game wraps itself up, right? So that's kind of why I want to point this one out. We have Liquid Ret, who of course is awesome. He's one of the best Zerg players around, period. And that is actually not arguable, whether you're in Brood War or Starcraft 2. And he's spawning here at the right position of Metalopolis, and we have oGsMC spawning in the south position as the red Protoss. Now, for the record, they both live in the same house. That is the Team Liquid / OGS house. So they have a decent amount of knowledge about one another. So when I'm watching this game, I really want to be watching this from the Protoss point of view, for a couple of reasons. First of all, I just wanted to. Second of all, MC just won a Star League, the GSL, that is. So it's always fun to look at a player who's really good and scrutinize how it is that he plays. So we're going to go through this kind of in a number of ways, right? So we have this replay. We want to learn how to be like oGsMC. Now, I'm going to do a pretty common technique I do, which is to just blast through the replay. Just get a general sense of what it is that I'm going to see. The reason I do this is it's kind of like outlining an essay, if any of you have ever been to school, you know, where sure you can start and write your introduction and your paragraph 1 and then paragraph 2 and never go back, but it's kind of easy to be like, all right, I kind of want to talk about this and bring up these 3 points and then wrap this sucker up. That's what we're going to do. We're going to get an outline of what happens, so I'm just going to go ahead and speed things up. I'm going to begin it at ×8. No reason not to do that. Looks like we're getting some information of what's going on. And also, I wanted to note one thing really fast that's really cool. In terms of sensitivity, you should always have your sensitivity set not at a multiple of 5. If you set it 50%, 55%, 60%, 65%, you lose accuracy in your mouse. So set it somewhere between 51 and 54, or somewhere between 56 and 59. There's a cool thread about it on Team Liquid. I just figured I would throw that one out for the moment. But anyways, so I'm just going to get a broad overview of what is going on in this game. Okay, so it looks like oGsMC blocked this sort of expand, or perhaps Ret didn't want to, but he's going for some sort of pool gas. Looks like oGsMC opened up with a forge on the top of his ramp. Oh, that's sort of interesting. And he opts to build a cannon before a Nexus. These things are pretty significant. I'm not noting any foods. I didn't look to see how the Chrono Boost works. I didn't really pay attention to anything. I was just like, okay, a forge went down. Oh, a cannon went down. All right, a Nexus went down. A hatch didn't go down. And I just want to kind of get a general sense of what's going on. And anytime there's something that kind of makes you go, huh, that's something that we want to go back and look at after we've watched it all the way through, right? After we've done a little outline. Again, this is a pretty short game. And I want to focus a little bit more on oGsMC's point of view, so I'm going to be looking around at that. And he builds a cannon before the Nexus. That's kind of interesting, so I want to think about that, because a lot of people like to go Nexus, and then Forge, and then Cannon. Players like TT1, players like Tester, you see do that all the time. So I'm just kind of going, huh, alright, so he's getting his Cybernetics core really fast. Do I see a Zealot anywhere? No, I don't see a Zealot. Wow, he actually skips a Zealot, just gets one thing. I'm noticing some nice walls being constructed. This is great. Is he going to be building another pylon here? It looks like he has a probe here geared up to in case a run-by comes. He's going to go ahead and he's getting his Warp Gate upgrade out. You know, I haven't looked at Zerg in a minute, so looks like Zerg, went for kind of a fast +1 upgrade. Got that layer quite quickly, looking at the production. We see a Spire going down. Red also got this third base up. Okay. And now I'm going to stop. Now, normally I wouldn't be pausing this much whenever I'm analyzing one of these short games. Notice, hey, the game's 13 minutes and 50 seconds long. We're almost done with this game. Interesting. But I'm noticing some broad things. I try to link games I see to other games that I've seen. So, for instance, I watched 15 Fruit Dealer Zerg vs. Protosses in a row. And every time his Protoss opponent early expanded, Fruit Dealer would expand twice and get an engineering, or not engineering bay, an evolution chamber to begin upgrading. Every single time I consistently saw that. So I'm watching this, and I'm just sort of mentally noting, okay, Liquid Ret saw his opponent early expand and took this third pretty damn fast. Great. And we see an evolution chamber. Interestingly, Fruit Dealer would actually opt for the Carapace, whereas we're seeing the +1 attack upgrade. I'm not going to overthink it. I'm just going to note some stuff, right? Okay. And he's just doing a little push. I'm noticing there's not that many sentries. There's kind of a lot of stalkers. Just broad stuff. I want to get an outline of the game right off the bat. Looks like nothing but Zerglings being made from Rhett. Okay, here's some pushing coming on. I'm noticing he's attacking from the south side instead of from this top side. That's kind of interesting. There's a pylon there. He's warping in more Zealots over time because it looks like, you know, he's seeing those Zerglings. Okay. And it looks like, wow, there was an attempt at a counterattack, but this wall-off seems pretty darn good. Continuing to push, doing some nice force fields. Getting picked off. You know, in a lot of circumstances, I see a couple of things. I think everyone has seen Protosses do like 5 or 6 warp gate pushes against Zerg. As we see here, it is 6 warp gates. In general, that first push either does a lot of damage, maybe lets Protoss set up a third base of his own. Players like TT1 sit around constantly building up a huge force off 6 warp gates, and then they push. Watch MLG's Dallas tournament to see a lot of examples of that. But here I'm noticing that the attack didn't work, and we're not seeing a lot of waiting around by MC, so I'm just noting that. I'm just mentally noting that. I'm not going to form that many questions here. I'm just going to kind of go, oh, how curious. Very Sherlock Holmes style. Sort of musing with my pipe at my computer, you know, as the average StarCraft player do. And he is just continuing to push somewhat aggressively. And I'm going to just briefly note a couple things in the resource panel. Okay, good. Looks like finally breaking in there. Wow, this looks potentially game-ending. This is actually quite scary for Rhett, and it looks like after making only Zerglings, this was eventually a little bit too much, and Rhett ended up leaving the game. Okay, so I have a pretty good summary. We're going to rewind the game, and now we're going to watch it really in depth. But first, I always want to get that outline up, because it's so key to have a general sense of what is coming up. So, I mean, you can always have little questions that come up if you have this outline. For instance, if a player starts an upgrade, such as +1 attack, and then he moves out when the +1 attack is halfway done. When you go back and rewatch it, now that you have that outline in your head, you can kind of be thinking, now why did he not wait for the +1? What was that motivation that forced him to move out? Start looking for a couple more things. So let's go ahead and do that and think about some of those things that went on. Now, as we watch this replay, I want to note something that is so important. It is okay to do something that is good and have no idea why it is good. So, for instance, I can watch what oGsMC does. I can steal the build order exactly. I can execute it perfectly, start winning, and say, huh, I stole his build and it works. Huh. We want to do a little bit more here today. We definitely want to do some analysis. We definitely want to think about why things work the way they do. But it is okay to start doing something, to have it work, and then look back at your play and go, now I'm starting to understand why this is so good. There's nothing wrong with just blindly stealing from a good player. Just make sure you get a couple of motivations out of this. So for any of you who, of course, do what I do and write things down, you pull out your StarCraft notebook and you say, okay, build a pylon at 9. Little things like the fact that, look how good this pylon placement is. It's just barely at the edge of this ramp. So for instance, I can throw down a forge here, and I can throw down a gateway here, and I can actually throw down another gateway here to get a complete wall off. If my pylon were like here, I could build a forge, and then I could build a gateway, but there'd be this awkward little space here that I couldn't really re-wall off with another gateway. Say if someone was Baneling busting me, or, 4 pooling me. Excuse me, wrong game. 6 pooling me or something like that. Okay, so MC scouts his opponent. I wonder what he's going to do. I'm seeing that he's constantly chrono boosting. There's Liquid Rhett with the frowny face. Liquid Rhett probably just does not like having these close positions, and I immediately see some probes get queued up. And it looks like MC is wandering around in the base. You see a lot of players will pull back here and just camp and get ready to build a pylon. So in my eyes, this says that oGsMC, with the opening that he is doing, really wants to know when that pool gets built. Some players, you will see, really just don't want to be up against an early expanding player. But for some fishy reason, oGsMC really wants to see when this spawning pool ends up going down. So again, what have I done? I made an observation. He is not going to the expansion to block it. He's instead moving around the main. Interesting. Just made the observation. Then I thought of a motivation for that observation. Well, if he's staying in the base and not going to the expansion, he's probably looking for the pool, right? But now I don't know any motivation for why he's looking for the pool. So I'm going to start to try to look for one. So we see this pool go down, and I would bet you to say that this is around the time that oGsMC immediately throws down a forge. Now, in terms of build orders, one of the biggest mistakes that you'll see almost everybody who's trying to get good do, almost everybody does this. They just write down the numbers in their Starcraft notebook of when things get built. They just write them down. Okay, what, a pylon on 9? Okay, good. Oh, the forge, what's the forge? It's 15. I already made a forge at 15. Okay, the nexus, okay, it's 22. I better do that. And they just do it and don't think at all. But here, I'm going to not use the food numbering so much. I'm instead going to say something like, oh, oGsMC saw the pool get started and responded with a forge. He responded with a little bit of a faster forge, and now he's going to be building a pylon down here. Now, we can start to make sense out of this. We can start to say, oh, okay, if he sees sort of a fast pool going down, and in particular, hell, if he sees this gas geyser get started, which he does, he better get that spawning, or he better get that forge with cannons up fast. For two reasons. One, units are coming soon. Better get the cannon up soon. Two, this expansion's going to be delayed for Zerg. It's okay to delay this expansion as oGsMC. So I think this is very smart. So he's continuing to scout around. I'm noticing other things like probes have constantly been built, and also energy is constantly getting spent. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about the energy right now. So you have just downloaded this replay. You're watching through it. You lose all your Protoss versus Zergs. You have no idea how to do it. You've tried a variety of things, and you're just looking to MC to just steal it, right? You just want to grab what he does and do it yourself. That's fine. But it's okay to take a little bit of knowledge and experience from your end of the court and compare it to his. If you're a gold player, hell, if you are the worst bronze player in the world, you have an experience of playing the game, and that is legit. There is nothing wrong with what you have felt when you are playing. For instance, when I have tried early expanding as Protoss, I have found that I really need this second pylon up pretty quickly. You'll notice that he's at 18 of 26. You get to that max pretty quickly. In fact, if you do build a nexus before this pylon, you get supply blocked at 18 of 18. I have noticed that in my own experience. In particular, if I chrono boost all my probes, I hit that max point really soon. So what do? I just don't chrono boost for a while. I just stock it up till I'm at like 80 or 90 because I'm thinking, why would I chrono boost my probes? I'll be food max and then I will have wasted the chrono boost. So I'm really, really keen to compare my experience. I'm saying, oh, look, he's able to spend this energy chrono boosting everything. So that way he can, he's spending all his energy chrono boosting everything because he knows he's going to get the second pylon for the cannon down really, really early. So he can easily chrono boost. He's not going to get food blocked. I'm starting to go, okay. And what did that comparison give me? I can say something now like, if Zerg early expands, I will early expand and then build a forge and then build cannons. If he goes for spawning pool first, I will build a forge, expand a little later, and chrono boost probes constantly. That part probably would not have picked up on if I went through the replay just one time. It's really important that I'm going through it the second time now because, hey, now for me, literally, that never occurred to me. But now that I've seen it, I'm going to be stealing that. Yeah, I love stealing things from oGsMC. You're so kick-ass. So here he's going to be building the cannon. I'm aware of this placement. I've seen how this walls off this part, touching the nexus. So I kind of want to keep that placement in mind. He is continuing to block this part off. Looks like he's poking up. Okay, he sees Zerglings. I noticed that he's pulling all the way back now. He's not going to be looking for any Roach Warren, it doesn't appear. Alright, so I'm going to do a little bit more counting. I really want to see when gateways go down and when gases go down. So I feel like I have the really early stages down. I know why I'm getting the Forge first. I know why I'm getting this cannon first. I know why I'm chrono boosting probes. I know where to place these things. So it looks like he's building the gateway around 2021. This food, sure, it's useful to say he's building at 21. I'm going to remember this as build it when you can afford it and continue to make probes. Never halt the probe production. Please continue to make probes. Okay, cool. We see this assimilator going down. Oh, that's interesting. After he builds his gateway, he double assimilators. Now, again, it's okay to just blindly follow this. To say, okay, I see him making pool, going to build a forge, going to build a cannon, going to build a gateway, going to build 2 geysers. Got it. However, nothing wrong with relating it back to my experience. In my experience, when I do early expand PvZs, I have a little bit of awkwardness with when I get my gas. Should I get 1 geyser and then make a cybernetics core and get another geyser? Do I go like geyser gateway cybernetics core geyser? Do I go gateway geyser core geyser? Do I go geyser geyser gateway core? It's a little bit hard to really get that good balance for one easy reason. No matter how much gas you have, you can always burn it on sentries and feel like you're spending your gas well. You know what I mean? But that's okay. I'm just gonna kind of look at this and go, you know what? This seems kind of like a healthy medium. Getting double gas instead of doing any sort of single gassing type stuff. So it looks like oGsMC is constantly poking up here. He's getting a good sense of the timing on this hatch. Yeah, okay, cool. So in terms of scouting, constantly scouting to see when the spawning pool began, and then constantly scouting to see when this hatchery began. Now, if I wanted to be real meticulous, which I do, I might stop and say, when did that hatch get built? When did that hatch get built? Huh. As he says, opening up the wrong overlay once again. There's nothing wrong with just rewinding. We were at 434 when we did the rewind. Watch this. Okay, so we see that Rhett went for spawning pool, gas, so he's getting a queen now. So we're actually just going to look at Rhett's gameplay really fast. We're going to look, when does he have enough money? He has it right now, but first he's going to invest in that gas to get that speed. And there, now it looks like it's getting thrown down. So I can say something reasonably confident now. Notice our gateway has just been planted. Now, alright, so I'm making a couple of connections, and I'm going to figure out a good way to articulate it. Okay, I think I have some good connections going on right now. So what is MC scouted? He's poked up with his little proby guy, and he has seen the spawning pool go down, he's seen the gas go down, but then he kind of had to retreat. Why? Because Zerglings spawned, and Zerglings are good at killing probes, right? nothing complicated there. But let's look at a little bit of timing, because everyone knows that timing is the heart of good strategy, but let's look really close. If my opponent goes for spawning pool with a gas geyser, and he gets a queen, and he gets speed, he will be starting his hatchery right around the time that I am starting my gateway. What does this mean? It means that if I take a probe after I've built my gateway and I scout his expansion, what if there's no hatch there? It probably means that there's a huge one-base attack coming up from Zerg. Because we've seen, if you get the queen and the gas and the Zergling speed and some Zerglings out, you can afford a hatch around 20 food, around when I build my gateway. Cool. What if your probe scouts a hatchery getting constructed before my gateway goes down? Well, he probably doesn't have speed for Zerglings coming up. So maybe I don't really need to build an extra cannon. Maybe I can get away without an extra cannon. How awesome it is to make that link to just have that brief question of when did that hatchery get constructed? So now by asking ourselves that question, we have some amazing, subtle, little timings that we can work with. that will make it a lot easier for us. And hey, look, MC is just getting a grip on that. Okay, the hatch is a little ways done. My gateway is a little ways done. Nifty, nifty. So I'm continuing to look around here. Looks like another photon cannon being built. I like this placement. I personally always like to build a pylon here kind of quickly. Again, that's an example of me relating my experience of the past to this game. So I'm going to go ahead and just note that. Yeah, I've had some issues with Zergling run-bys. I can strengthen my experience related to this game by saying, okay, well, we saw the hatch go down around the time my gateway went down, so I know at the very least he has Zergling speed coming. So actually, I might even be more inclined to build that pylon there. That seems great. We do see that he's continuing to chrono boost probes. When the gateway finishes, he just builds a cybernetics core. Easy, easy, easy. I'm no longer thinking to myself, cybernetics core on 24. I'm thinking cybernetics core right when my gateway finishes. So that way I'll constantly be checking my gateway. And if for some reason my gateway finishes and I'm broke, and I cannot get a cybernetics core, I know I did something wrong. Looks like there's that transfer going on. We can note things like 6 probes getting transferred. It's not necessary to really obsess, and it looks like all the chrono boosts thus far have been on probes. There's a chrono boost at that nexus. This guy only just now has enough for one additional one. Okay, great, great. This probe, I haven't really been watching too much. Maybe if I want to rewatch this replay a third time around, I will check up on exactly what oGsMC is scouting. Perhaps when he bounces to here, perhaps if he ever goes up here, perhaps the times at which he checks out this hatchery. Right now I feel like that as MC we have a pretty good sense of what's up. So it looks like he's suiciding a probe. Again, we just note timings. It looks like he's suiciding it around the time his core's getting close to done. I don't have a great reason for that. I'm just sort of noting it. If I want to be cool like MC, I'll probably just suicide my probe around the time the cybernetics core is halfway done. Why? Because maybe I will stumble across his reasoning. Maybe I'll see a roach pop out and go, there's roaches coming. Well, maybe that's a good time for me to have scouted, and then you'll reload the replay, and you'll see that right when the first humanly possible roach could have been built, that coincidentally lines up with right when your cybernetics core is halfway done. So maybe this ends up being a good time. Right now, I don't know. I have no idea. None. I have no clue. That's fine. I don't care. I'm just going to kind of blindly follow that. We have another pylon going down. Part of me still is thinking, yeah, you know, I really would want that pylon there. Really kind of feeling that pylon. So there, of course, is the there's the warp gate going down at the cybernetics core. Interesting. We had enough chrono boost for the warp gate, but instead it looks like we're spending it on that sentry. That is very consistent with my experience. Consistently, I find that I really need a rush for that sentry to pop out, just because you'll see a bunch of banelings waltz up and you'll bam block them down. Yeah. Getting it done. Looks like we see a few more cannons going down. I think that this cannon was smart because we saw the Zergling speed go down. Remember, if this hatch goes down right when my gateway goes down, it likely means my opponent got Zergling speed and a queen before he started this hatchery. So I really do quite like that photon cannon. I really, really like it quite a bit. Just sort of noting it. Remember, you don't build cannons because you want to defend. You build each cannon for a reason. Right? Like, you build one cannon right off the bat because you need to hold off Zerglings from his 14 pool. You build a second Zergling because you know, or a second cannon because you know he can run Zerglings around my back, so I kind of need to cover that. And he has link speed. Right? We're at the very least thinking of reasons. And now I'm starting to see why this second pylon was placed here at the front. Because we create a nice wall off. Great, second gateway going down right there. We haven't gotten +1 ground weapons. That's a timing that I screw up all the time. I never quite know when to begin that when I do this early expanding. But it looks like I'm starting to get myself a little bit of an education, thanks to oGsMC. And back to chrono boosting probes again. Looks like he just chrono boosted that one sentry. He just wanted just one sentry out really, really, really fast. And my goodness, is that chrono boosting low. Really, really low. Here comes some more gateways going down. I'm actually going to stare at his production a little bit. Is he making probes this whole time? Players like TT1 completely halt all probe production. I've noticed that. I sometimes feel pressured to halt all probe production. I've noticed that in my experience. Going to relate that back to this game. More sentries coming out. Okay, cool. And yeah, it looks like he briefly halted probe production, but it's not like he stopped. Oh, great. I'm really getting a good fleshed out ordering now. I'm seeing that he is chrono boosting, he is starting and then chrono boosting the ground weapons upgrade after he has started every single gateway. Every single gateway he is going to have all game long. 6 gateways. He gets those out of the way, and then he gets the +1 weapon upgrade. Now, I'm coming back to my face now because I want you to think about just something really subtle that I said in that sentence, right? Something really subtle that may have slipped under the radar and relates back to why it's so important to have that outline. Can you think of it? This is when I wish I had that Reading Rainbow type transition, like, he got his ground weapons after he started all his gateways, but you don't have to take my word for it. Ba-dum-bum, right? And it transitions to me in like a purple shirt or something. Oh man, I need to clone myself. But the one thing I said, and I'll say it again slowly, was he started the ground weapons after he built all the gateways that he would have for the whole game. I didn't know that unless I watched the game all the way through one time. By watching it through, I saw that he started 6 warp gate and he just kind of kept going 6 warp gate. What if you're watching a game and someone goes 4 warp gate and then gets that +1 attack upgrade? Well, is he going to be pushing? Is he going to be adding on 2 more gateways? Is he going to be adding on 4 more gateways? Is he going to do something crazy like that? It doesn't quite feel as clear, right? But because we see that 6 gateways is what he's going to be having the whole game long, I can sort of say to myself, oh, he is just going for one huge-ass giant attack. If he got this +1 upgrade really early, like for instance after 2 gateways, I might be able to say, having seen the game once, I might be able to say, oh, he's starting his upgrade early because he wants to get to 2-2 really fast. He wants to get to +2/+2 quickly. So we better start it early. So I'm still paying attention to when these probes are getting made. Oh, here's something interesting. Again, I'm starting to see this. Relating this game to many other games, players like Tyler, players like TT1 love not getting gas at the other base. They cut all probe production and do a 6 warp gate crazy huge aggressive push. But hey, now I'm starting to get an order because I'm seeing, oh, he's actually not sticking to 2 gas. He's getting 4 gas. And you know what? Sometimes it's good to have some of this written down. So you know what? I'm going to bring up my notepad. All right, I'm going to bring up my rudimentary notepad. All right, let's scroll it over here. Yeah, all right, cool. This is the sort of stuff I like to write down on a piece of paper just because I don't like having notepad windows open. Look at how ugly it is, and it covers up my Starcraft poster. Ugh. I hate you, stupid notepad file. But that's okay, because we're going to say something like forge when I see a pool, and then we're going to say something like second pylon plus... no, you know what, the typos, it's authentic, it's grainy, it lets you know what's happening in real time. Second, plyon, and chrono boost, probes, and then a cannon, and then we're going to make our nexus, okay, and then we're going to get gate at around 20, 21-ish, something like that, 20 or 21. I want to steer clear from writing it like that because it looks like 20 of 21 food. What else do we see? Double gas right after gate. And then we're going to do something like get our core right when gateway finishes. And then we're going to build 6 gates. Then start +1 attack. And then get 2 geysers at Expo. Right? Wow, look at this. You know what? Probably some of you are Zerg and Terran players who've never played Protoss versus Zerg at all. But you know what? There we go. Sorry, it's reversed. That's actually pretty good. This is a pretty good, clear plan. And then you can add little notes like this, because it doesn't always have to be in order. What I call this is a framework. This is a framework for how we're going to play. But then I'm going to add a little asterisk, like mainly chrono boost probes. Right? Primarily we're chrono boosting probes. Rarely halt probable production, right? And this is kind of useful to note because sometimes if we obsess about when the food gets thrown out, oh, is it a 21, oh, is it a 26 cybernetics core? We forget obvious things like make frickin' probes, right? I mean, because, for instance, think of how deceptive this seems. you might have a build order that says something like, build a gateway at 30. And you say, all right, cool. And you're the sort of player who chrono boosts his sentry really hard. The person you saw might be the sort of player who chrono boosts his probes really hard. So at 30 probes, at 30 food, he might have 30 probes, and you might have 28 probes and 1 sentry, also totaling up to 30 food. You don't quite know if you did it right or wrong, unless you have these little sort of star things, sort of general habits that you want to have. All right, cool. See you later, Notepad document. Thank you for that assistance. So this is great. So I'm getting a good sense of this. Will he be halting probe production? That's something that I'm kind of genuinely curious about. These are finishing up. Yeah, it looks like we have our sentries going down. Looks like we have our sentries in the main. How many sentries do we have? It looks like we have 4 sentries total. Alright, good. Are we going to continue chrono boosting this? We do have chrono boost saved. Now, it is okay to criticize a player, no matter who the player is. That is okay. Not in a forum. It's not okay to be watching the GSL and be like, TSL reigns terrible. He can only cheese. LOL. I'm in the bronze division, right? That no one likes an asshole in a forum just trying to condescend to like the second place player in the GSL. But it is okay to watch a game of oGsMC and go, oop. He's forgetting to chrono boost. He's forgetting to chrono boost. Too often you'll get players who are a little bit too deferential to their superiors in the game. They're a little bit too much like, well, if MC got supply blocked, he probably had a good reason. People mess stuff up all the time, and it's totally okay to say, oGsMC, you amazing player, I want to steal everything you do, including your beautiful nerd body, but you know what? You forgot to chrono boost, and that's bad. And there we see the Forgotten Chrono Boost. This +1 could easily be coming out. So it looks like we're grouping up for an attack. I'm noticing no more probes are getting made. If I were being ultra meticulous, I'm actually not going to do this one. I would really try to figure out when he stopped probe production. Like around what food or at what trigger. Perhaps when all my gateways are finished. After I've done 1 production cycle of units, I will stop making probes. After my +1 attack upgrade is halfway finished, I stop making probes. I steer clear, I steer as clear as I can from noting he stops probes at 53 food. I don't quite like that as much as some sort of relationship-based ordering. That's generally a lot useful. If you end up in some odd scenarios, some very weird, funky things, then you can always get yourself back on track if you have that relationship-based focus. Now, one thing that I noticed in my broad outline dart through the game, I noticed that he's moving along this right side instead of through here. And what I noticed is that by moving through the right side, he can he can basically throw down a bunch of force fields in this patch and wall off his units on the right side from the units on the left side. Or if there's a whole bunch of Zerglings here, he can throw down force fields here, and it's easier too. A way that I would put this as a generalization, if I am a Protoss against a Zerg and pushing, I want to move along constricted spaces primarily. I want to move in as constricted lanes as possible. I want to be hugging edges of walls a lot. I want to be moving through narrow entrances. I want to be attacking from the side. I don't want to be moving through the center very often. That's something I do not want. I do not want to be surrounded. And hey, you know what? Right when my +1 finished, I'm just chrono boosting that sucker. I'm moving forward. Only Stalkers. Look at production. No probes getting produced. So here comes all the units from Rhett. We're going to see some force fields get thrown down. Okay, cool. Looks like this is your usual sort of good stuff from a good Zerg player. Far more Zerglings than most Protosses would be expecting. We do see that there's no +1 attack. That's something I kind of noted. A lot of times it's easy to obsess, but because we did our outline general blast through the replay, I have a good sense of what's going on. And it looks like oGsMC is responding logically. He sees Zerglings, he will make Zealots. If he saw Roaches, he'd probably keep making Stalkers. But you know what? This seems pretty reasonable. No production coming up from oGsMC. And it looks like he is spending all his chrono boost on his gateways. Alright, now there's something useful to note. Now I'm not as critical as before of the fact that he was not spending his chrono boost. Because I'm looking and I'm going, aha, he is going to be saving all that up so he can continue to be very aggressive. And as usual, we see a Zealot Sentry mix. Good way to replenish when you are dying very fast and cheap. 2 guys in the geyser, that's bad. Does he have 2 guys in any of these geysers? Nope. But still, nothing wrong with me saying oGsMC. You should have had them in there for the sole purpose of making sure that I don't make that mistake. Again, don't be the sort of guy who's like, I'm better than oGsMC. I never have 2 guys in my geyser, because that doesn't help you win. That just helps you feel cool. And remember, you can always be cool by actually winning games. Okay, so here's something interesting that I'm noting. Completely halting all probe production. Keeping all units in a forward position, likely to defend this pylon. I'm a little worried about the Zergling counterattack. We see some Zerglings darting in. Can't quite funnel their way in as well, getting stuck, and it looks like they pull back. And oGsMC actually pushes when he sees that. Now, that could be a potential trigger, the fact that he saw all those units there. But I'm noticing he has a good half-and-half mix of Zealots and Stalkers. And interestingly, not that many sentries. If you watch players like In Control play, In Control always has like 9 sentries in his first push. Or Huck has like 50 sentries and 1 Zealot. But I'm noticing oGsMC doesn't really have that many sentries. That's kind of significant to note. You see some more guys being warped in. Alack, they get picked off. And hey! Again, I'm seeing this narrow space logic working really, really well. Working really, really nicely. But how is MC going to respond, given the fact that he kind of has to pull back? Looks like he's going to begin putting pylons over here. He's going to rewarp. Very good technique that you saw oGsMC do there. I'm going to rewind just so we can highlight that. It's pulling back just a little bit to rejoin your reinforcements. So we're actually just going to come back here. Now, I'm going to pause it and just say, we're going to look at stuff warping here, and we're going to look at on the mini-map mainly. So look at the mini-map. You see all these troops pulling back. You see all these troops pulling back. You see them sort of pulling back. These things get warped in. They get warped in, and now look at them all sort of moving back forward again. Very, very good. Very, very, very extremely good. Maybe we'll see another set of units get warped in, and we'll see the same sort of pullback by MC. Or alternatively, he could just wait until this pylon's done. But that's really important, especially for you Terran buddies, Terran specifically, who are very timing push oriented. They'll move out with a timing push, and they'll kind of get killed. Maybe they could push forward. They have some reinforcements coming. Just sort of pull back, get your reinforcements, and then move forward again. Very, very important to do that, actually. That's super freaking critical. Do it. Day 9 made you do it. Love that song. We're actually going to clock out tonight with that amazing song. That's even going to be on the recording. Yes. Oh my god. I love those guys. Some more Zealots coming in. Some more Zealots getting warped in. Still would not mind if these units just popped back to here to join in with those 4 Zealots, because they can get surrounded. And it looks like oGsMC pushing in a pretty logical fashion, but I'm still noticing, hey, you know what? Not that many sentries getting built. Really not that many. Mainly this Zealot and Stalker composition, half and half, probably because we're largely seeing some Zerglings getting morphed in. But we can see that the pressure from oGsMC was just a little bit too great. Just a little bit too great. No other plus armor upgrades, nothing like that. And we actually know, from the fact that we did our outline, that the game's going to end pretty soon. The game's going to end a little bit soon. We're actually going to go through this one more time, because there's some great, great ways to pick up some timings. There was one that we got last time about when he makes his hatchery. And of course, there's GG. There's one that we got, which is, when he makes his hatchery versus our gateway. So that was useful, but we're going to get just a couple of more timings. Now, I would like to state for the record, part of the reason I loved this game so much, just for educational purposes, is that oGsMC had a pretty simple game plan that he just executed. There's not really any complicated follow-throughs. There's no robo going down. And as a result, there's no Immortal incorporation, there's no Observers, there's no Colossi tech, there was no Stargate that happened, there was no Twilight Council for any upgrades there. There was, in fact, no other upgrades that were researched the whole game. Did he even get Hallucinate? I actually want to check out. Okay, here's his Cybernetics core. No, look, there's the Hallucinate upgrade right there. He just got Warp Gates, a bunch of Warp Gate units, and just pounded Rhett until he died. That's awesome! That's awesome! Because it's very easy to steal. It's so stealable. Oh my gosh. Any of you Protoss players who are struggling in PvZ, I'm going to tell you, you use this build a lot. You're going to win a ton of games. A stupidly large amount of games. Because this is well-timed, has a lot of good elements to it. You can even make some good readjustments to your framework and all that good jazz. So we're going to actually watch through this replay one more time and pick up on perhaps the most essential component to any strategy, which is timings of your build as they relate to his build. Cool, let's go ahead and check them out, right? We're going to see exactly what I mean. We're going to do a couple of examples. We're going to do a couple of examples. We don't want to write down everything because, again, it's important that you find stylistically the things that you need to look for. Right? So for instance, if you are a Protoss player, now watch Rhett's money, alright? He's at 14 of 18 and bam! His spawning pool goes right down at 14 of 18. You should say to yourself that if I chrono boost probes constantly, I will also be at 14 of 18 when he starts his spawning pool. That's really useful to know, because when you see this go down, some people are like, yeah, it's somewhere between a 13 and 15 pool. Hell no, it isn't. It's exactly a 14 pool because I am at 14 food and I have only chrono boosted. Alright, cool. So I'm going to start my forge. You know, I'm kind of curious, when does my forge finish? Now, let's say for some reason you're awful and you hit a suicide button and your probe detonated. Let's get some timings done. So, okay. I personally, Sean Day9 Plot, love establishing timings based upon when big, important things start or finish. Alright, Forge finishes right when Spawning Pool finishes. Incidentally, there is a probe that is in the base that can see this, but if for some reason I'm terrible and I lost my probe, I can still know definitively, hey, I'm at 14 food, I've been constantly chrono boosting probes, that's a spawning pool. Therefore, if I retreat immediately, I can start my forge on 15, and right when that forge finishes, that is right when his spawning pool finishes. How many of you lower ranked players see a pool go down a little earlier than you anticipated, and you kind of get that, ooh, Zerglings might be coming, Zerglings might be coming, Zerglings might be coming. You know what? Zerglings are just not coming, alright? They're not. Because our forge only just finished. How useful, how great to know exactly what is up with our opponent. Fantastic, all right? So we're going to see, okay, well, when we just throw down a photon cannon, all right, it looks like, you know what, let's use this photon cannon. Let's see if we can establish when something significant happens. Right around the time our photon cannon finishes is right around the time his queen should be finishing. It's not, I don't think that's really particularly significant. I'm not going to be like, all right, cool, so that way I'll have my cannon up to defend against the queen rush. Like, that's not useful. But you know what? It's kind of fun to be able to sit on your ass with no scouting and say, cannon finished. His queen must be finished. And hell, if you know when his queen finishes, based upon when your cannon finishes, you know when the first set of larvae finishes. So therefore, you know when the first huge threat of roaches can possibly be coming. Oh, you know what? Let's actually do that. Let's actually look at that. So look, Rhett finishes his thing. All right, so now I'm going to actually look to see when this larva ends up popping off. And, okay, larva just popped off. Our gateway's almost done. Our gateway's almost done. Cool, 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 cool. All right, are you seeing what I'm seeing? I'm saying if you, all right, listen to how bold this is. Listen how bold of a statement this is. Yet how reasonable this is to say. This is bold. If you scout with a probe, you've been constantly chrono boosting probes back home, you're at 14 food, and your scouting probe sees spawning pool start. If you retreat immediately, build a forge on 15, and then build a pylon, and then build a cannon, and a nexus, and a gateway, right around the time that your gateway is about finished, that is the first instance that larva vomiting pops off. So you don't really need to worry about any pressure until a little while after your gateway finishes. Because when your gateway was almost finished, that's when the larva popped off. Then they have to build into something. So like roaches are scary, so then they have to build into the actual roaches. And those roaches have to walk their little slow scuttling asses to your base. It's a long time. That's a huge amount of time. You have plenty of time. Relax, get back, take it easy. Spit on your webcam. Are you seeing this blotch that I just... You know what? We're going to clean this off. Alright, let me just use my amazing sweater. Yeah, there we go. There we go. The little timing push on that saliva. Wow, my camera was dirtier than I thought. Look how crystal clear I am. Yeah, I'm pretty hot. Yeah, let's analyze some games. Alright, cool. So we know an excellent timing. So we're going to slow it back down a little bit. You know what? Let's actually, Okay, so there's another timing that we did, which was if he goes pool, extractor, and then he gets a queen and he gets Zergling speed, he will start his hash right around the same time that I start my gateway. You know, I want to start looking at some things from... let's not start anything from Rhett's point of view yet. Let's just keep staring at things from oGsMC's point of view. Alright, our gateway just finished. Anything significant happen? Not particularly. Well, I guess the second queen is finishing around the time our gateway is finishing. Our cybernetics core starting, wow, before his hatchery gets up. Okay, that's nifty to see. Right when our Nexus finishes, what's going on? What's going on right when our Nexus finishes? Nothing super noteworthy that I can see, at least. And again, this is about your style. If you are losing a lot to roach rushes and huge roach pushes, you are probably going to be looking for, hey, when do those extra larvas pop off that I really need to worry about? For instance, you and I definitively know now that when our gateway's around 75% done, that's when the first set of larvae pops off. What about when your expo hatch is finished and you get 2 sets of larvae popping off? At what time do those 2 larvae pop off? Because that's when some really scary timing pushes can come. Well, let's actually find that time out, all right? So I was at 5 minutes when I decided to figure this out. So that is right about now is when that larva pops off here, and it's going to pop off here. We can see a little timer getting started. So it pretty much just popped off. They pretty much just both popped off. So it looks like a pair of larvae pop off right around the time that right after our first sentry's out, actually. Wow, so now I'm actually understanding why it's so key to get that first sentry out, because this is around the time when really threats become super real, right? When people are getting huge amounts of larvae. So interestingly, we don't actually have that many gateways up. So I'm actually noticing that this is kind of a sensitive time for oGsMC. This is actually quite a sensitive period because if 8 larvae can be popping off at either one, right when we're at this position, we really only have some sentries. Hey, you know what? Now I see a justification for this third cannon. I really very clearly see a justification for this third cannon. So alright, Rhett went ahead and took a third. I didn't catch when he took that third, and I want to. So I am going to rewind this. I'm actually going to close some folders here, so that way I can minimize this thing. Great. So I'm going to rewind right around to the 4-minute marks, that way I can kind of poke my head up here. I'm going to return my little overlay up. And I'm just going to speed things up, speeding things right along. When is this going to go down? When is this going to go down? Nothing wrong with going through a replay more than once. In fact, there's everything right about it, because my God, this might be way more effective than me watching 50 replays of MC, because I'm just watching one short, solid, Hulk-smashingly awesome game a lot of times in a row. So let's go ahead and I want to note a little thing. So notice that this drone, Red has 400 minerals. This hatchery could have been started a little earlier, don't you think? This hatch really could have been started earlier. So I account for that. So I'll say something like, right when my cybernetics core is halfway done, he can start a third. As we see in practice, Rhett gets here and then kind of forgets, and he's kind of sitting and chilling, little drone doing nothing. Okay, and it looks like he starts right when our cybernetics core is done, but I'm pretty content saying things like, when my cannon finishes, that's when his queen finishes. When my gateway's 3/4 done, that's when his first set of larvae pop off. When my cybernetics core is halfway done, that's about the time when he could have started a third base. What does this mean? Right when my cybernetics core is halfway done, I probably want to check this location. That's when I want to check it. So we actually saw that MC suicided a probe up in here, but I'm not so sure that I really like that. I actually might prefer otherwise. So we're just going to go ahead and note a couple more timings. Okay, the layer starts right around when, you know, ours not really any good timing to relate it to. This is when I kind of reluctantly say, yeah, I guess at 36 food, that's when this hatch could be going into a layer. So you know what? Let's actually investigate a little bit more. Okay, you know what? Rhett is getting a good amount of probes here, but not an amazing amount of probes. Now, for instance, if you were a Zerg player and you really wanted to figure out how to hold off a 6 warp gate push, then you would say to yourself something like, okay, when I am Zerg and I'm at 51 food, that's when I need to worry about the 6 Warp Gate push coming out. If I am Zerg right when my 3rd base finishes, a little while after that, that's when his 6 Warp Gate push is coming. If I am Zerg, I don't know, how long has my layer been done? I think that layer was actually, has not been finished too long. Yeah, right around the time my layer finishes with this build order, that's when I really need to start worrying about a 6 Warp Gate push. See how we can do the same thing for Zerg, but mainly doing it for Protoss because, basically because fuck yeah, MC! And that's my entire thought process on that. And we're actually going to see Zerg do some pretty dramatic stuff. Now, the thing is that Rhett moved in with this Overlord, and a lot of people do this, where they move in with their Overlords and they try to check out what's up. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with doing that, as long as you know what you're looking for. If you're an ultra-competent Zerg player like Rhett's probably saying, my layer just finished. That's generally when huge Warp Gate pushes start. So what does he do? He moves in with the Overlord. If he sees a whole bunch of Warp Gates coming, he's like, great. That is the exact timing. If he sees, for instance, a Stargate or some Robos, he says, oh, wow, that means I'm not going to be preparing for the 6th Warp Gate. So he's scouting at the exact time when the 6th Warp Gate push can actually be realized. Are you seeing how smart this timing is? This isn't Rhett just going, Overlord, go! And then he looks in the base and he's like, I feel so much more secure. He's looking at the exact time when he sees that 6th Warp Gate push coming. Yeah. Yay, Retinatoad. So you know what? I think that's going to wrap up the good old analysis portion. We're going to go ahead and take some happy time, friendly, good old questions from the wonderful viewership. So viewerships, please go ahead and ask away as I brush my hair around. Hoo-ha, hoo-ha, hoo-ha. So Hindi Hat says, Shell de Neuf. Can you elaborate on why some players Nexus first in this sort of situation? If you can always defend properly by getting the appropriate amount of cannons, why sacrifice the early economy? Hindi Hat's point is actually correct. A lot of people, like for instance, most notoriously, you'll see the Zerg player who will hatch on 15 and then build 2 more drones and pool on 16. This is actually Machine I'm talking about. Well, actually, he generally goes like hatch 14 and then pool 16. But you know what? Really late pool. And a Protoss player will just sort of go like, all right, well, I'm going to go Forge, and then Cannon, and then Gateway, and then Nexus. And right when their Nexus gets started, and their cannons are done, like long done, that's when Machine's pool finishes, and he makes one set of Zergling and drones his heart out, right? You don't want to be in a situation where you're over-defending. So you'll basically see a lot of Protosses say, I'm going to make this Nexus as fast as possible, and by as possible, I need to know his pool timing. So a lot of people will, like for instance, I would venture to say that MC, in his poking up into the base, if he saw no pool, he would probably continue to build probes and then immediately Nexus. That's what I think he would do. That's what a lot of people do. That's what TT1 does. There are some players who will do something extreme like Nexus 15, Forge 15, Gateway 16, do something like that. It's okay if you have like a reasoning behind that, but you know what? I understand MC's timing. He's getting that cannon fast because my opponent is getting his pool fast, so that's okay. I'm personally always the fan of the economically focused things. So I would say build the Nexus if you can, but probably somewhere along the lines, MC built his Nexus first against a player who went 14 pool in these positions and lost to a straight-up lane rush. That is very possible. So I get that quite a bit. So, hey, it's Joey Ock. I know that guy in real life. Hi, Joey. Who says, hey, you, Day 9, with a really big happy face. He says, Rhett doesn't really make use of his Spire in this game due to the early pressure. Do you think that this same force MC had would deal well with Mutalisks? Hey, let's go ahead and check it out, right? Damn it, pencil, get on the other side of the table. One thing that I always say a lot is that StarCraft is not as counter-based as you would like it to be. Well, I don't say it. Let me just say it's not counter-based. I'm glad it's not that way, because then we would just have rock, paper, scissors, which I don't think is the best game in the world. A lot of times, the best way to deal with Mutalisks is not to build Unit Zen, because that unit is great at killing the Mutalisk. You can, make the counter unit, like you can make Phoenixes to deal with it in a direct way, Or you can just kill him right before his Mutalisks get up, or you can have a huge force of Stalkers and move out right as his Mutalisks get up, so his Mutalisks are too scared to counter your base because, you know, Zerg knows that he'll die. A great example of that is YEAAH against Demaga from BlizzCon on Lost Temple. Demaga made a huge amount of Mutalisks, tons of Mutalisks, and there was this huge Stalker force from YEAAH. So how did YEAAH deal with the Mutalisks? Well, he didn't make Phoenixes, he didn't make any sort of fancy defense at his base. He was just really up in Demaga's face. And the instant Demaga tried to counter and hit YEAAH's main, all YEAAH did was blink into Demaga's base and kill him, right? So I want to look at some timings here really fast. And you can do this really, really easily. So it looks like this Spire is going down right now. Okay, cool. I would say it went down about on time. If it didn't, that's okay. We can account for that. We just need to go back. But now I'm starting to see, hey, you know what? This attack comes right when the Spire ends up getting finished. And notice that this is an all anti-air army, right? We have the Stalkers, we have the Sentries. Great. So you know what? I really think it would have. Let's say for some reason Rhett didn't go for a Spire, that he instead went for Roaches with Burrow. I would want to test with a friend and say, all right, I need you to get your Spire as fast as you can, doing this exact opening. Or if you want, you can do this sort of thing where you say, okay, well, the layer finished at this time, and if I go and look at a drone, I see that, okay, let me even remove my overlay again. I see that the Spire takes 100 seconds to build. Cool. And I want to see, does my attack come 100 seconds later? That's an excellent way for you to get some sort of gauge on it. So you know what? I do think that this attack would have worked well. The only reason I know was because I looked at it, right? I looked at the damn replay. Hockey Avatar asks an amazing question. I'm going to take this, then I'm going to take one more, and then I'm going to go eat tasty food. Hockey Avatar says, Day 9, I'm in the Bronze League, but I want to do something like this early expand. It's hard to know if the Zerg player is going to be on this timing in the Bronze League. What can I do in this case? Allow me to expand upon this question to make sure everyone understands where Hockey Avatar is at. So I did something really bold, right? I said that from the start of the game, we would be able to deduce when that first larva vomit happened, based upon the timing of this pool. Now let's look at it explicitly. And we're going to state this in the way that a pro would do, right? Rhett built this exactly when he had 200 minerals. The pool finishes, and he starts the queen exactly at the moment that the pool finishes. And right when this queen finishes, as we are going to see, exactly the moment it finishes, we see that larva coming down. When you're in the Bronze League, you're anything but exact, right? But this is the important thing to note. I should have been stating everything as, right when your gateway finishes, that's when you need to start worrying about when actually, let's actually look at the timing. Okay, so and bam, larva pops off. Right when our gateway is 75% finished, that's when the first set of larva pops out. At the earliest. At the earliest time that you will ever need to worry about, whether you're playing the best player in the Diamond Division, whether you're playing against the worst player in Bronze, whether you're playing against some middle-ish player in Gold, the earliest time that you actually need to worry is right when your gateway is 75% done. So don't feel any pressure to build a third or fourth cannon. Don't feel any pressure to do that. And that's why these are good timings, because this timing is great against the best of the best of the best, so it will be at least as good against not the best of the best, against someone in the Bronze League. So this is very, 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 very easy way for you to get a good sense of whether you're ahead or not. Like, okay, I am going to move into attack right at this point in time. You know, like right when we took Joey Ox's question, right? There was the push with the Stalkers and the Sentries, and it happened right when the Spire finished. And that's against the best player, you know, one of the best Zergs, period, against Liquid Rhett, who's really good with his timings. If you're against someone in the Bronze, you can be assured that he will almost certainly not have those Mutalisks out as well. In fact, his Spire might be halfway done, or 25% done. Does that mean that you need to change your timings? No, of course it doesn't mean you need to change your timings. It means you do the exact same thing that you were going to do, but it's going to be all the much more better. In fact, you might even win with this first little attack. that first attack that happened there, you might win if you're against someone in the Bronze League. Whereas you might have a little bit of a struggle and then win against a Diamond level player. So I will take one more question here. Let's see here. Let's do one more thing. Oh yeah, Dana, where can I download this replay? sc2rep.com. Look it up at sc2rep.com. That's probably my favorite place to download replays from. So Soul Wager says, how would Protoss defend the fast expand if Zerg went for one base Roach after the Expo was blocked by a probe? It seems like Roaches can take down walls without entering cannon range. Then Zerg can finish the job with Roach speedling. That's something that, you need to test. You need to test that. Because, again, StarCraft is not rock, paper, scissors. You know, it's not like, hey, if he does rock, what should I do? I'm like, ladies and gentlemen, you make some fucking paper, yeah. As much as I wish that it would be that easy. A lot of it is about timing. Did you guys know that right when I start my gateway, if that's right when he starts his hatchery, that means that Speed Zerglings and Queens were started before the hatch? I didn't know that timing until I saw it. You kind of have to see it in practice. So hell, what I would say is less, how would you defend? And more, how would you adjust your build based upon what you see? So for instance, if I were Protoss and I started my gateway, I scout, I don't see a hatch. And then my gateway's halfway done and I move up there and I'm like, I still don't see a hatch. And then my gateway gets 75% done and I still don't see a hatch. You know what that means? 75% done is right when his first set of larvae pops off and I don't see a hatch. Shit, I'm going to make 5 cannons. A great example of defense that I saw from TT1 is he makes like 7 cannons, he stops probe production, he starts getting tons of gateways, and he only chrono boosts his warp gate. And then right when the Roaches arrive and he's chrono boosting the warp gate, he sees if he can get away with canceling any of those cannons. And if he can, he'll cancel like 5 of the 7 cannons, and then use all that extra money to warp in the first round of warp gate units, and it works out really, really well. What if he does see a whole bunch of Roaches? Well, he keeps the cannons, and then he has 6 warp gates he can't quite use, but he'll still defend properly, and then he'll go back and kill him later. But, practice this timing. Play around with it. If someone's going one base all in against me, I'm going to make a ton of cannons, like tons of cannons. And I'm going to get those sentries. That way I can kind of, back off, and let my cannons do work. That sort of thing. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, that was the first daily of 2011. Hope you enjoyed it. Huge in-depth analysis of what I like to call a one-sided rape game. Those are great, great educational examples where someone just completely one-sidedly demolishes someone because you can mimic that and one-sidedly demolish players of equivalent caliber. Easy. So that's going to wrap it up. Stay tuned in the upcoming dailies for more awesome announcements of how 2011 is going to operate and very fun projects in the works. And of course, definitely check out the wonderful in-house Blizzard Tournament Finals. Wonderfully provided by, of course, the esports department, who I partially think that they sent them to me because they just wanted to show Gnome winning some awesome games. So, yeah, definitely tune into that. Woohoo! And, of course, 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. Bam! Yeah! 100,000 subscribers. Yeah! So I'm very excited. So thank you all for your support. I'm peacing. See you later, guys. See you tomorrow. See you tomorrow. See you tomorrow.